And we are back here to another Beyond the Streams episode. Again, this is where you find Rojas and Next Level's Trump looking face.
What's up, Ross? How's it going, man?
Good. You asked for it. You wanted that jab. So for anybody that's watching through good old YouTube, you will see what I'm talking about. If you are listening to us, just imagine Mr. President Trump with a lot of facial hair and a hair bun.
Airbud. Hipster Trump.
Hipster Trump.
Hipster Trump.
Now, we got some interesting conversations going on here with Android 11. This has been actually confirmed. Android 11 may finally remove Android's 4 gigabyte file size limit for video recordings.
Yeah, definitely something I'm looking forward to, especially as a content creator. Especially.
So it says here, I'll try to summarize the reasoning behind this limitation without going too deep into the technical aspects. Basically, Google decided that Android's media I can't even say that word, media mixer, I'm guessing, and MPEG-4 writer classes, which are respectively responsible for mixing, combining video files, and saving them as MP4 files, should support outputting an MP4 file with a maximum size of 232 1 bit, which is approximately 4 gigabytes. This decision was made early in 2014, back when the Google Nexus 5 came out, and it was a maximum of 32 gigs of internal storage, which was still on the market. SD cards were still widely in use, and then the first phones with 4K video recording had just come out to the market, the Galaxy Note 3. I don't know about you. I have the Note, the new Note, whatever this new Note is, Note 10, and I got so much. I think it's like 500 gigs of internal storage in this sucker.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
It is a lot, and phone ROMs or hard drives have been increasing year over year, and the standard has been going up. So that's something that they needed to revisit. Because what was the year they said in that? Was it like
2014?
2014. We're looking at 6 years. 6 years that they haven't increased the file size limit on how much the Android operating system on their mobile OS was compatible with, right? Mm-hmm. So that's definitely something that needs to be increased. What's some of the reasons that some people might need larger file sizes than 4 gigs on a phone? Like, what's some reasons that you would use it?
Recording.
For real? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know when I'm obviously. You have the Note 10, you said?
The Note 10.
I have the Samsung S20, and these things can record in 8K. So an 8K video, 4 gigs in 8K video would probably only be like 2, 3, 5 minutes at the most. And when we shoot raw footage, we usually shoot a lot more, and then we cut it down, we shrink it down. I know for myself, I do a lot of editing on my phone. And when I'm splicing video files together, putting them in, and then rendering afterwards, that could cause my rendering software to crash if the output is going to be more than 4 gigs as well, too. So that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah. Now, just because I know people are going to say, well, what is that? What is that going to do here? So just continuing the article today, if you record a 4K video on the Pixel, it's right here. Today, if you're recording on a 4K video on a Pixel 4, your video will reach 4 gigabytes in about 12 minutes. That's at the default quality settings for 30 frames per second. For the frame rate and 48 megabytes per second for the bit rate, after about 12 minutes of the recording, the camera app will save the video and immediately begin recording another video without the user noticing. So it's separating it into different files. Okay, here's an example. 73-minute video recordings on my Pixel 4 was split into 7 different files. So it pretty much spaces them out. And I know when it comes to recording, I like to record my stuff one and done. Sometimes I have to pause and then I have to remember what I said and then record. So for this thing to do it seamlessly like that, that should be pretty neat. I don't know what type of cuts it will make when you put two separate files together. Sometimes you do see that small little
Yeah, for
like
real.
glitch or hiccup or whatever it is.
And I actually ran into this problem on my phone. I was doing an unboxing video, and I didn't realize why it stopped recording. And there was a bunch of different files, and I was like, I just thought it failed, so I scrapped the video.
Mm. And I've done that. I've done that plenty of times. So this is pretty interesting. We should be seeing this pretty soon.
Well, that's coming with. Did they say that was coming with Android 11, right?
Android 11.
And Android 11 has started rolling out for the Pixel phones, and I think OnePlus has talked about rolling out Android 11 as well. So, I mean, probably I would say closer to the summer we'll see a lot more devices with it, but for sure by the end of the year.
Yeah. So here it is. Developers have asked for a way to record videos file larger than 4 GB in size for years now, and it seems that change could finally become available in Android 11. So it's going to be coming very, very, very soon.
Yeah, that's definitely some good stuff, man. Definitely some good stuff. Now, Google has a couple other things that is kind of interesting that's coming out. It's going to be quite widespread because a lot of people are using Android devices. What do you got there, Rojas?
So there is a Google will switch to its prompt system as the default 2FA offering, and I guess in layman's terms, this means that there's going to be push notifications coming out to anything Google related. Um, so for those unfamiliar with the Google prompt, it's a security feature that sends a notification to a smartphone that you're currently signed into with your Google account to approve a sign in on another device. For example, if you try to sign in to Google on your laptop, your smartphone will prompt you to the yes to allow that login attempt. I have noticed, which I like this feature
I like this
personally.
feature a lot.
I've had very
Yep.
random on my cell phone says you are being logged in off of Firefox in New Jersey, and I live in
Mm-hmm.
California.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, I'm sitting
Yep.
here in California watching TV right now, comfort my home. So no. So then, I know you talked about the puned. Have you been puned?
Yeah, have you been pwned?
Pwned, whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah, that's a
So
good website,
they
definitely.
try to hack your stuff, and when I saw that, I'm like, that's interesting, and I could see their IP address. I'm like, you are not that smart.
Well, I've seen it a lot with like Singapore and other places like that, and I like it because immediately you know that's not you. So
Oh
what do
yeah,
you have to do? You know what I mean? You know what you need to do. You need to go change your passwords.
for sure. Now it says here, Google plans to migrate all eligible Google accounts to its prompt system starting July 7th. So depending on when you're watching this is going to be after that date. So if you've noticed that you're getting some weird, make sure you prompt yes or you're signed into this. Or it's gonna like I'm guessing everything's gonna just start popping up out all of a sudden when they flip this on, or if
Yeah,
it's already on, you might not even have to worry about it.
right.
So that means if you currently use SMS based 2FA to secure your Google account, and that the 2FA is the
Factor authentication.
two factor authentication. Thank you. To secure your Google account, that's going to change. However, Google will still offer this, and users can manually switch to these messages on your myaccount.google.com on that page under the security tab. Additionally, users who already use this feature won't be changed over since physically security keys offer even more protection. Also, on July 7th, Google plans to start pushing these security prompts to all signed in devices. A frustrating change from the current system, which allows you to control which phones receive the prompts. While the change to sending prompts
Oh.
to all phones may prove annoying, overall, Google will likely improve the security of users' accounts by moving them away from SMS based 2FA. It's worth noting that while the process will begin July 7th, it may take as long as 15 days to roll out for everyone.
So just so everybody's on the same page, SMS based security is when they actually send you a text message. That's SMS, right? What they were saying at the end of that article is that when they make this switch, it's going to go to every cell phone device that's registered to your Google account. So I can see where it's going to get a little frustrating, right? Because you could use the same Google account on your kid's phone and your phone, and your kid's going to start getting all these prompts now and maybe allow something or say okay and not tell you or whatever. So it could be a little bit confusing. That's why we're kind of bringing this news out to you guys so that you guys have this information. If you start getting all these prompts on all your devices, that you have all the information and you don't get too worried, right? I kind of look at this a little bit like an Amber Alert. You guys have Amber Alerts out there in the
Oh yeah,
States, right?
definitely.
So, you know, when Amber Alerts first started happening here, I mean, even still now, people will call 911 saying, turn off these notifications. And we're like, these are good notifications. Stop complaining. Stop wasting taxpayer dollars and calling 911 for something that's not an emergency, right?
Yeah.
So don't get frustrated. Understand this is for your benefit and it's a really good feature to have, right? It's protecting your safety, your security, all that kind of good stuff.
It's a great feature when they add stuff like this, they really don't have to. And when it's almost like, with us being in the tech industry, we buy a laptop, we buy a desktop, we want to have a really good security system, we want to have a good malware, anti-software, like that type of stuff to make sure we're protected.
Mm-hmm.
We've also had conversations about VPNs, about protecting your IP address and stuff like that. I always look at this stuff as lock and key. You have a lock and key for your house. You
Mm-hmm.
Every time you leave your house, you lock it up, and if you're fortunate enough to have an alarm system, then you turn that bad boy on and make sure all your prize possessions or your goodies, whatever you have inside the house,
Yeah.
is protected. And I think for them to say, hey, we're going to give you something free of charge, we're going to add all these extra things
Features.
so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, all these features. I think this is an amazing thing that Google's doing. They're telling, for what this tells me is that they care for whatever devices I have, especially if it's coming from Google, that they care for my protection, my security protections.
Protection for sure. It's the same way like when you were mentioning your home security, right? If there's anything that your home security is like iffy about, what does it do? It sends you a notification,
Hmm.
right? It's like, hey, I don't know what this is. Maybe you do, but you're gonna have to deal with it, not me.
Yeah.
I remember we talked about it briefly last month, where some of my Google accounts were hacked, and they logged in. They did a bunch of stuff on my stuff, and I honestly can't remember right now if I got that notification saying that somebody was logging into my stuff on another device or not. But I mean, the earlier you get that notification is the earlier you can stop that.
Hmm.
You want to be ahead of all of that to stop it. You need to be ahead of it because in my situation, I've talked about it kind of briefly here and there, but in my situation, they got into my Google accounts. And then after they got into my Google accounts, they got into my PayPal accounts, and my PayPal was connected to my bank accounts. So some people were like, well, we talked about this recently in regards to security as well. It's like, well, I don't have any money in my account, so it doesn't matter. But there's so much more that people can do with your online information than just take your money.
Definitely. Definitely. Now, which is very interesting. I know when we do some of these Android devices, when we look at them, we see right now Android 9 is like the latest and greatest of what everyone's talking about, and it's slowly migrating to Android 10. We're starting to see some of these streaming Android devices going into Android 10. I know some of them are certified Android TV, they're certified Google, and they're all using Android 9. There's not that many that's using Android 10. Now, with that being said, Android 10 has been out for a year.
It's probably been out longer than that. I think they
Probably
usually do a year of beta and then
a
they
year of
release it.
beta and then a year of release. So if you don't look at the beta, it's been a year since it's been out officially.
Yeah.
And Android 11 beta is already coming out. Now, this is another thing that we're looking at with Google. People are saying don't install Android 11 beta if you use Google Pay. And just looking at this, this is now, this article here is update 2 now. It says now update 2 now working. But look at this thing. Like, this is stuff that people love to jump the gun when it comes to the latest and greatest. And I always say, wait until it's actually out there. Don't jump the gun within the beta. Just like plenty of different types of services out there, different types of streaming platforms, you want to wait till it's official and most of the bugs are ironed out. And here it says, Google Pay. I'll start right here. Google Pay actually worked with Android 11 developer preview 4. Again, developer preview. As soon as I see that, I don't want this stuff on my phone yet until it's done out of the development and stuff. But it's not working with the first beta. Setting it up for the first time on a fresh install will fail when verifying a new card for in-store payments. If the device already had Google Pay set up before installing the beta, it would work for a while, and then it will be cut off with a notification saying your phone is no longer ready for contactless payments. How annoying would that be? And now there's the thing right here. It says here, if you've used Android betas before, you know this is pretty common occurrence, but especially a bummer with Android 11. One of the new features is revamped power menu with Google Pay support. That's the price you pay for using beta software. We hope to see Google fix this problem in future Android 11 beta releases. Have you run into this problem with beta yet? So I don't know. I think it's very interesting to see, like I don't know, when I see a streaming device, and some of them are coming to Android 10, I'm like, finally, because the official release has been out.
Well, when it comes to cell phones, that's when I'm more interested in the latest releases. With streaming devices, I kind of like that sweet spot between Nougat and around Nougat, because once we switch to 8 and 9, that's when your settings get more geared towards mobile systems, in my opinion. You don't really need all the additional features and security prompts and all that stuff that you get in Pi and 10 or 11 when you're using it on a streaming device. But I'm hoping that changes with Sabrina coming out. All right, because that's going to be interesting. I think I'm not sure if we done a podcast or a video on Sabrina yet, or talking.
Not yet. Now, explain real quick what Sabrina is, because people might not know.
So Google is obviously the owners and the people that manage the Android operating system, and they have two versions. They have the Android OS for mobile devices, touchscreen devices, and they have Android TV that's geared towards TV devices. And up until now, they haven't really had their own device to run their Android TV operating software. You have devices like the NVIDIA Shield, Mi boxes, and the new TiVo that just came out that is running the Android TV operating system. But I believe, I don't know if it's this year that Sabrina is coming out, but Chromecast is getting a boost or a new release, and they're releasing it as, I don't know if it's a code name or the actual name, but they're calling the new Chromecast Sabrina. And Sabrina is going to be running Android TV operating system. And I absolutely love it, even if the device fails, because that means that they would be more interested in developing that platform, meaning that I'll be getting more features geared towards TV and streaming instead of relying off of, these phone-based features that are completely irrelevant when it comes to streaming. So I'm excited about that. Anything that comes to, future development in software, we talked about it in the very first episode. I love tinkering with software, figuring what I can do with it, what it can do for me, what I can get it to do, like all that kind of good stuff. So I'm super excited for, the second Chromecast to really come out and hopefully set a new standard and show me what the operating system can really do.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like, there's a lot of stuff coming. I know some people have said, with you were talking about Nougat, which is Android 7,
Mm-hmm.
the Fire Sticks, I think, are using Android 7.
Yeah.
And plus their OS Fire, whatever system they want to call it, 5 or 6 or whatever it is now. But when we look at some of this stuff, there's other devices like the Formula devices, which is another streaming device that uses 7. And people say like, well, what's so special about this formula device is using like OS 7? And it's exactly what you said. When you look at Android 8
Yeah,
or 9, it's more geared towards cell phones.
for real. It is.
So when a streaming device comes out and it's like, hey, here is Android 9, and Android 10 came out about a year ago, and now they're just starting to push Android 10 out,
Hmm.
where Android 11 is already scratching the surface and ready to come out. So it's not that big of a deal if the streaming devices are about a year behind, because it seems
Or
to me like
more.
they're trying to, or more.
Yeah.
Um, and it seems to me like they're just trying to make sure it's going to be compatible with a lot of apps, streaming apps.
Hmm.
There's just so many things coming out. So they're just making sure when it does come out that it is compatible with your NVIDIA Shields, your Fire Stick, stuff like that.
You know, when we dug into the Fire Stick last month, and we were really looking at it, um, it made me understand this whole concept a lot more than I ever did. So when I first got into the streaming stuff and I first started getting to Amazon devices, I was like, you want to get a device that has updates. You want to get a device that does updates, right? And I always had the idea that those updates that the Fire devices were getting was updating the operating system, the back end Android operating system. And then when we actually dug into the Fire Stick and we looked at the version numbers and everything, we realized that they never once updated the operating system from when they first released it until the end. Those updates that came out was just for their Fire TV software, the overlay, the user interface, or the GUI, if you want to call it, on top of the Android operating system itself. So it just goes to show you that Google has released some solid operating systems. And you don't necessarily need to jump update to update depending on your device. Now, where it comes that it's important is your cell phones, because these bad boys have all of your information on it, your banking, everything, all your personal data. Google likes to collect everything, put it all in one spot and help you manage it. But that also means that it could have security leaks, security issues. So a lot of the updates that you get on your cell phone are directly related to the operating system and come with security patches. So if you go into your settings, it'll say you have you'll say like the June 2020 security patches installed. You know what I mean? But that's different when it comes to your streaming device. It's another reason why I don't like putting Google accounts on my streaming device, because they don't have all the additional security patches that my cell phone does.
Mhm.
So I usually recommend, if you're using a streaming device and you have to use any kind of account whatsoever, use one where you don't have all of your personal information from your cell phone tied to. That's a recommendation I do. I try to stay away from that stuff. To me, I feel safer that way. But
Yeah. Now it's really hard to ask everybody like what version of Android OS do you prefer, because it's a lot of people really don't see the major difference. They just like, oh, here's a new phone, here's a new update.
well,
You
you know
know?
what? I think a lot of people probably get a little bit lost because some of the updates they have nothing to do with Google in some points, right? If you have the Samsung UI, when it gets released, it could go from version 1 point something to 2 like it recently did, and you have a whole completely different GUI or user interface, right? And you may think it has something to do with Google, but really that's coming from Samsung. A lot of the updates from Google themselves will be pushed to Samsung developers, and then or whatever device you're using. I know I'm being a little bit biased because we're both using Samsung phones and I have one beside me, but it'll go to their developers. They'll take a look at the actual implementation and what they need to add onto it as an overlay in regards to their own operating system, their own software, and they'll bundle it all together and then they'll release it to their devices. So it's kind of hard to say which operating system you like the best. But I think a fun fact is that Google didn't always own Android.
Mm-hmm.
Google didn't always own Android. They bought it when it was like version, I think 1.8 or 2 or something like that. Really smart investment. And I hope, I'm really curious now, but I hope whoever they bought it from is still getting royalties off that, because
Yeah, because it blew the heck up.
yeah, yeah,
Big.
for sure it did.
So I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Android updates, Android 11. There's just so much stuff, and there's going to be more. There's going to be so much more. But as always, you guys stick around. Make sure you guys are following us and subscribing. We have a lot of stuff coming for you guys. So as always, you guys take care of each other,
Be patient and stay humble.
and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.